Operation Market Garden was General Montgomery's plan to end the Second World War by Christmas 1944 by having the Allies cross the Rhine at the Arnhem Bridge in mid-September. You know, because attempts to end a war by Christmas always end up well for the British. However, Market Garden would fail despite Montgomery claiming to have it having been successful as the Allies withdrew the British 1st Airborne from Arnhem on September 25th in Operation Berlin. However, one question has to be asked. What if Market Garden was successful and ended World War II in Europe by Christmas 1944? Unlike my recent alternate history videos, I'm not going to break down the conditions which resulted in the failure of Market Garden to look at what we can change to make it a success, since Market Garden is considerably well known and there are a few factors that I don't want to have to analyze here. There is also a lot of historical debate regarding Market Garden, what led to its downfall, and what missed opportunities existed for the Allies. However, some things that we will change is to make Market Garden take place earlier so that there are a lot less German tanks for the Allied paratroopers to have to deal with. Or we could have Browning and the Allied General Staff take the intelligence that they received right before the operation more seriously and equipped more and better anti-tank weapons to their paratroopers, as it's kinda hard to stop a Panzer tank when all you've got is a Lee Enfield. In this alternate timeline, the Allies will end the war in Europe by Christmas as the British and Americans drive into Germany in winter 1944. Some obvious changes occur, like there is no Dutch famine or the Battle of the Bulge doesn't occur. The Soviets would press their advance on the Eastern Front further in 1944 to get the prize that is Berlin before the Allies did. There are many more Soviet casualties as the main Soviet goal is getting to Berlin. The Allies would turn south into Germany, Austria, and move towards Czechoslovakia. In the Pacific theater, it's likely that Allied troops will be transferred from Europe to the Pacific to support the island-hopping campaign. The nukes would still be dropped on Japan and end the war as the Soviet juggernaut goes through Manchuria. Not too much changes in the Pacific other than European forces going to the Pacific in early 1945 to push the Japanese back to Japan probably a bit earlier. Most of Germany falls under Anglo-American occupation compared to our timeline, and the Soviets still occupy some of Eastern Germany, and Berlin is still divided. The Allies get part of Czechoslovakia, and the state is possibly divided between the Czech Republic and Slovakia under Soviet versus Western control. It's also possible that in this alternate timeline, the percentages agreement between Churchill and Stalin could still be upheld. For those who don't know, the percentages agreement divided Southern and Central Europe between the British and Soviet influence. In our timeline, the draft was made in October 1944 after the failure of Market Garden, and in it, Britain was to have Greece while the Soviets were to have Romania and Bulgaria. Both Yugoslavia and Hungary were to be the sites of equal influence between the two. However, things would change to be more in favor of the Soviets. In this alternate timeline, Market Garden is successful and the agreement is created under different circumstances and is upheld, except without Yugoslavia, as the partisans liberated themselves and it was a state which was 50-50 between Britain and the USSR, so I think they would leave it under Tito. The big change is that Hungary doesn't fall completely under the Soviet bloc and is evenly influenced by both sides during the Cold War. But the point is, both the British and Soviets agreed to split up Southern Europe, so Churchill and Stalin are happy. One thing that is significantly impacted by the alternate and seemingly slightly different altered European divisions is the 1948-49 Berlin blockade. The Soviets might not blockade Berlin as it is not deep into East German territory as it was in our timeline. However, if the Soviets still blockaded Berlin, the Western Allies might feel more emboldened to send tank columns through Germany as they have nukes while the Soviets did not. There's no telling how the Berlin airlift would go if it occurs, assuming the West is bold enough to send tanks through Germany instead of sending planes. If this American tank column did happen, then the Soviets would have a choice, either back down or fight back. Here could be the site of the start of World War III, or if the Soviets back down, then they would get a serious slap to the face internationally by the United States. This smack to the face could be dangerous because the Soviets might want to be bolder in incidents such as the Korean War, and the West might see the Soviets as somewhat of a pushover when they were met with force. That's a pretty bad combination either way you look at it, and World War III might start before the Soviets get nukes. Some other impacts would be that the Warsaw Pact is significantly weaker and includes Poland, East Germany, Slovakia, Bulgaria, and Romania. The Hungarian uprising in 1956 could not happen as Hungary is somewhat of a weird neutral state between NATO and the Warsaw Pact. Or Hungary could be the site of mass spending by Britain and the Soviets to influence elections to make Hungary a communist or capitalist state. And if there is an illegitimate or rigged election that occurs by the communists, then the Hungarian uprising would occur, and it's possible that the British might intervene, as the uprisings are before 1956 when the British was involved in the Suez Crisis in our timeline, which I don't really feel like I should get into that in this video. What do you think would have happened had Operation Market Garden been successful and ended World War II by Christmas in Europe in 1944? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.